Stand fans forum. Manchester United are out of the FA Cup. It literally is Europa League or nothing. We could be sat here this time next week with nothing to play for until the end of the season. It is looking very bleak. Yes, we went out on penalties, but did we really deserve to win the game? 120 minutes at Old Trafford. What do we have to show for it in terms of our play, creating chances? We're here to break it all down. We're absolutely gutted. I am joined by Kev, Maud and Sam. I mean, I'm going to start with you, Sam. You were sat right behind Amorim in the dugout at Old Trafford. How was he? How was he from start to finish? What was his energy like? What was his body language like? What could you pick up from the way he was managing the game? Like, what was the feeling around Amorim throughout this performance?
Yeah, so I didn't actually know where my seat was, but when I walked into Old Trafford, I was basically sat directly behind Amorim. And I was like, oh, like, this is going to be interesting. Now I can see, like, maybe I can hear him or something. And then the first, like, minute the game kicked off, I could hear every single word he was saying. From the get-go, he was encouraging Rasmus every, like, 30 seconds, maybe every minute. Rasmus, come on. Rasmus, well done, Rasmus. Come on, Rasmus. Let's go, Rasmus. Encouraging. And I think that's good management, because instead of going, like, throwing his hands up in the air or, like, that he did a few times, like, he was encouraging and was trying to, like, keep the momentum and the energy going. He was also did the same when Chido Obi came on. He was very like, come on, let's go, like trying to keep them going the whole time. The first half, it was very, up until the goal, it was very like, from Amorim, was very like encouraging. But then when the goal went in, he didn't look very happy, like, to say the least.
He's going to be pulling his hair out, isn't he, really?
And then the second half, he was very, like, started to get visibly frustrated. He was, like, shouting. He was saying, like, I can't remember which player, but it was like, over there, like, pointing. And then when the set piece coach came out, this was, I thought, was very interesting. When the set piece, so what I saw every single time is, every time there's a set piece, Amorim walks back to sit down and the set piece coach walks up. There wasn't, right until the last minute of extra time, of the second half of extra time, was when the first time them two stood together the entire game. It's one or the other the entire game. The players didn't really seem to understand what a set piece coach was trying to say. He would put, like, number 4 up or number 2 up or something, and the players would just be like, what? Like, I looked at him and then I looked at the players and I looked back at him and he was just stood there like this and they were just stood there like this. And it was like, well, you don't understand what this like number 2, number 4, this would have been worked on in training. Like, he's not going, all 4, like, yeah, you mark number 4. Like, it's not how football works. You would have been drilled in to know that number 4 means a certain thing. So it's like, it's a lack of understanding and it's just confusing. Like, how do you not understand, like, the basics
that's
of
the
what
choice
your
of word,
set piece coach
isn't it?
is wanting.
Confusion.
Well, it's not just the set pieces. Obviously, we conceded. Get off a set piece. Like, again, obviously, there's confusion all over the pitch, Kev. It feels like the players just aren't in sync with each other. They don't know where each other are. It feels like there's no confidence within the players. There's no patterns of play. I mean, how are you feeling at this moment in time, Kev? Because I'm going to be honest, like, I got up this morning, you know, I was so close to not going to Old Trafford today because I can barely walk on my ankle, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to go. It's the FA Cup, you know, it could be a good one like it was in Liverpool, like, you know, I don't want to miss it. I'm stood up on my feet, like, I'm not complaining because I had to go to Old Trafford. I don't want to complain because I know so many people would want to go. But I'm stood up for 120 minutes supporting this team, backing this team, shouting for this team all the way, and it's like, that's what we get back, and it's not a one-off occurrence, it's every week. It's tiring to watch. It sucks the life out you, doesn't it? I
said it the other week, didn't I? I said United's main consistency this season has been their inconsistency. It drives you mad. You know, I'm lower than a snake's belly at the minute. I cannot get any lower, and it's every single week, you know. And for me, INEOS, you know, they have got blood on their hands to a certain extent. That they decided to bring this manager, you know, to the club, and, you know, Where do we go with this? How can you know, I back the manager, I get it, but the timing of bringing him in now, it just looks absolutely horrendous. These players, the majority of them, are not up to playing this system. I've just used the word confusion. It's there to be seen out on the pitch today. You know, the manager knows how he wants to play. He's come in, he's quite, you know, he's not going to change that. And people keep saying, why doesn't he revert back to 4-3-3, you know, make it easier for the players? They couldn't even do that under Erik ten Hag. So what difference is it going to make? I'm worried about the future of this club, and I look at it and I think, where are the funds coming from in the summer? You need players that are technicians, technically able to do, and play this system. And that is the concern at the minute. He's been able to bring in one player in Dorgu who looks all right up to now. Obviously he was missing today through suspension, but I'm really, really worried. I'm sure a lot of supporters are. When you hear that people are losing their jobs in the club, whether it's the tea lady or the maintenance man, whoever it is, but the buck stops with INEOS. You have to look at this and look at the players. A lot of these players are stealing a living, and it's heartbreaking, man. It's
a year of INEOS at this football club, and see everyone joining us for Mark's Final Score. Please get your opinions in. Stay with us, because this is the ultimate therapy forum, and we need you guys for the next hour. So please stay with us. Get your super chats in. Get your thoughts in. We are going to break it down. It's a horrible point for Manchester United, because as United fans, as we all are, and we commit. We go to the games. We are constantly supporting this team, and obviously I know you don't have to go to the games to be a United fan. I know everyone's feeling this pain, and you've all been along this journey with us, with the pain week in, week out, but every season it feels like it can't get any worse, it can't get any worse. I remember when we were second under Ollie and people were criticising us because we're so far off City, McFred. That's how I started on the United stand. Then it goes back to, then we end up getting 5th and 6th. And then people are like, oh my gosh, how are United 5th and 6th? Then it's 8th with Ten Hag. You're just a cup team. And now it's like we're sat in 14th in the Premier League. We're out of the FA Cup. Does anybody back us to get through in the Europa League against Sociedad? Genuinely, with what these players show us every week. If you are backing us, it's just blind hope because you're a United fan. You want it to happen. It's not based on evidence. And it's like you keep thinking it can't get worse, and then it does. I mean, Mods, a lot of people have gone in on the Glazer ownership. They are still majority owners of this football club, but INEOS have come in, they promised better. They've had over a year, and we're at our lowest point. We're 14th in the Premier League. We're out of the Cup. You've got a manager who doesn't have a team that suits his system whatsoever, and everyone's saying, let's back the manager, let's get behind the manager, let's get in players. I understand that. But he's going to need a completely new team, and we've got no money. Like, where do you actually go?
I mean, this is the thing. I don't even know where to even start with this, because what do you look at first? Do you look at the fact that they've not spent any money, or do you look at the decision they're making behind closed doors, the staff that have been sacked? Do you look at the appointment of Amorim coming in this early? Do you look at them not sacking Ten Hag quick enough? Do you look at all the things that are going on the pitch? Because obviously they've employed the head of recruitment, they've employed the director of football and then sacked him, and
CEO.
The CEO, the CCO, they've made all these employments. So it feels like every decision they've made so far, I'm trying to find one thing that I could say, you know what, INEOS, that was perfect. You did that perfectly, and everything's gone right from that decision. I cannot think of one thing. And look, none of us are owners of football clubs, so we can't really put ourselves on a high horse and act like we know what to do. But I know they don't know what to do. That's it.
The only thing, they tried to get the structure right, because I remember being on the Thursday night show at the time when Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, Dan Ashworth come in. But even again, you look at the Ashworth one and you think, he lasted a couple of months. So the money that they've wasted on that. And when you look at INEOS, they are kind of... I just can't believe that they weren't that daft before they invested money in United to know what's going on behind the scenes. It can't be a year down the line that they've just discovered, how bad it is. I'm sure they're just a puppet for them
Amorim
in a
himself
sense.
said he basically didn't say it outwardly, but if you read between the lines in his press conference, he basically said he wasn't told the whole truth about the situation the club was in when he came into the club.
Yeah,
and I think that's the exact same with INEOS. Obviously, United met obviously INEOS and the Qatari parties that were involved in the race to buy Manchester United, the tours of Old Trafford, the tours of the stadium. They would have known in some capacity. They would have seen the state of the gym. They would have seen the injury records. They'd have known we're not coming in to buy a perfect football club. We're coming in to what? To a big fat mess. And if INEOS were confident and able to turn this around, and we hear about these year like year
2028.
projections and a project 2028,
Not
right? It's where do you think we're going to be in 2028? Except maybe the championship at this rate. Like
3 years away, it's not far away.
Like, where do you think we're going? They have no idea. We are only going downhill. What is there to look positive for right now?
Do you know what it is with INEOS as well? And obviously, we'll talk about the game. Ricky sent me some thoughts, by the way. We are missing Ricky. We have Kev back, by the way,
yes,
and everyone's excited to see you at least, not United.
Well,
but excited to see you. And I feel sorry for you, Kev, because you've worn an elite jacket.
This was my lucky jacket last year when we won the FA Cup. I wore it every time. I was going to take it off before, and I thought, no. The run of luck has come to an end. That's all United play off at the minute.
Come to an end. Yeah.
5 and locks, you know. This knobhead here today. We'll win 2-1 today. Score prediction, Kev. Yeah. Of course.
That's a 3-1.
Shameless.
But while we're on the topic of INEOS, and get your thoughts in as well, like they absolutely knew what they were walking into. You look.
They have to.
When you're paying billions, over $1 billion, to take a stake in a club. You are looking through every single piece of that box with a fine-tooth comb, with lawyers, with everything. They knew exactly what they were walking into without a doubt. They knew exactly what they were walking into. But they have, like Maud, like you said, I don't think they could have handled it much worse, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think our summer strategy was slightly better. I think people over-exaggerate it. It wasn't a window for the Bucks. It was just better than absolutely awful.
It was a standard club's transfer window, but for us, because we keep it very, very late, to have some early signings in, we were like, we're back. But we're not back. We're just doing what normal club. We operated one summer transfer window like a normal football club and acted like we just won the Champions League.
They backed Erik ten Hag. Yeah. So that shows that moving forward there was no actual plan. What you've done now is supplied that manager with over £200 million worth of kind of players that summer, and then you've decided to press the panic button. I've got nothing against Amorim at all. He's been dealt such a difficult hand. I look at it now and I just think he's set up now to front the mess that's going on behind the scenes, because he is the kind of face. I just hope supporters see through that. I'm sure they do, and they look and they just think he's working now at United with his hands tied behind his back, and it's happened so many times.
They actually got stuck in halfway house, to be honest with you, because Ten Hag, it was very, very well known he wasn't really a massive fan of Ugarte and wanted McTominay to stay, but they pushed ahead with that because of the stats, because they run the stats, and it came out with Ugarte, who's the best midfielder to partner Kobbie and Mainu in his last season at Sporting, and they really wanted to push through with Ugarte, so they kind of ruled over Ten Hag on that one. Yet they brought in, even though it was the club, not Ten Hag like people like to say, they brought in De Ligt to kind of support Ten Hag. Euro was one that they all agreed on, and then Joshua Zirkzee was kind of, Ten Hag liked to play with them wingers like Rashford and Garnacho. They were hoping he was going to come in to kind of fill that Martial role of the hold-up play and putting him behind. So they kind of got stuck in halfway house. The signings were probably the best thing they did, and even that wasn't, I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. Yeah. Like, even that was a 6 out of 10. Everything else has just looked so amateur. And I can see people in the chat saying, stop protecting Amorim, stop making excuses for Amorim. Look.
I'm not started yet.
We've not even started to speak about Amorim. I'm going to ask that question next, but it stems with INEOS, because did INEOS realise how much of a system change that was actually going to be, and how much research was actually put into getting Amorim in? Because as much as I think most of us, and please feel free to butt in if you disagree, think that Amorim could be a super successful manager with the right tools and the right players in his armour, because he has a very specific system that he's proved he can work, and he's clearly got great man management, and he's got aura about him, he speaks really well, he knows what he's talking about, he's got experience behind him, just like many other managers have had when they've come into Manchester United, by the way, and failed. But it's like, were INEOS right to appoint him then? What do you guys think? Were they right to appoint Amorim at the time they did?
Well, it's the reason, apparently, if you believe what you read, it's the reason that Dan Ashworth fell out with INEOS, because Dan Ashworth was pushing that point of, you want to bring Amorim in, but we have a bunch of players that cannot play that system. So you're going to bring us a manager in Amorim who wants to play a back five with our players, with our current set of players that have never played a back five. And yes, Dan Ashworth was pushing a Southgate, a Potter, those type of managers to come in. But that's why he fell out with INEOS, because he was saying that the squad cannot play what Amorim wants to play, and that's why Amorim probably said, I would snap my hand off at the opportunity to join Manchester United, but in the summer, when he can reset, when he can bring his players in. In the end, he caved in, and he came now, which just shows commitment to Manchester United, if anything. But it's not the. You think he doesn't want to be playing with these South players. He wants his players, and we had that opportunity in the January transfer window, and we didn't get him what he wanted. And we have the same opportunity in the summer, and we're not probably going to get him what he wants. So, like, now what? We're just going to go round and round and end up sacking him again.
This is what worries me, and I'll come to you on this, Kev. What worries me with Ruben Amorim and his situation, I walked in today and I was just like kind of, as I usually am, ranting off when I come in from a game we've lost. And I was saying, I want him to stay, 100% I want him to stay, and I want him to get back and I want him to succeed, but I do worry about him. And, we have a producer saying, he's not going to get sacked, Beth. There's no way he gets sacked. And I say, you say that, but we chased Dan Ashworth for a long time, and everyone he was the guy, and then they flippantly sacked him because he disagreed with what they said. Like, if you believe what you hear, which... And it's like, who's to say they get to the summer and they're like, this isn't what we wanted? And it's like, we're about to invest the last bit of money we have, which is barely anything. Are we going to do it on someone who's lost? Are we going to do that? I'm not saying that's what should happen, but that's what I worry about. Because, Kev, like, you're INEOS, you're the Glazers, you're the decision makers. Obviously, you're not. I
was going to say, don't tie me with that brush.
We'll tie you with that brush, but you're getting to the summer. We have got no money. It has to go right. Are you going to put all your eggs in that basket since he's come in and all he's done is lose?
Yeah, well, like Sam says, if that is true about Dan Ashworth, then, who's to say and argue there now that he didn't have a point? He clearly had a point. Now, I don't agree. I said at the time as a joke that it was a sackable offence ever wanting Potter or Southgate at Manchester United. I didn't think they were good enough. But if his overall kind of theory was that bringing in Amorim at that stage, knowing that he's going to need technical-based players for that system, and it's basically not going to work with the squad, then he had a fair argument. But in terms of INEOS, I mean, they are incompetent. I don't even think the things that they've done at Nice have been groundbreaking. If you look at what's happened from when they took over. So at the same time, it's like, well, what did you expect when these clowns, managed to buy into United? And you get these, top reds at the time. Yes, you had Qatar in the background, but they were like, we don't need a sugar daddy. Sir Jim, grew up supporting United and that. And you're like, this is absolutely utter horseshit.
Sir Jim's thing was putting the United back into Manchester or something like that.
Manchester back into Manchester United.
The Manchester back into Manchester United, and all we've seen is him fire people from Manchester United.
It's just
how is that what he said?
It used to be like a family kind of club, behind the scenes. Somebody who works at Old Trafford, and it's going to be low, isn't it? If you work in there at that moment, you would be worried.
I know people who work at Old Trafford, and I tell you one thing. They're not feeling the family feel from INEOS. I tell you that, and they're not feeling the love from the ownership.
The one thing I've kind of said this to me mates and that, we're like talking behind closed doors or whatever, and I honestly think the one reason they bought United, it's nothing to do with the fact he's a United fan. He does see that there's money to be made, but it's this obsession with the Wembley of the North. The regeneration plan, I think INEOS have looked at that. Obviously, you've got Gary Neville in with it and all that, yeah, whatever. And I think they see that they can make money from this.
It's complete money.
Massive
billionaires.
At first, you really like to kind of believe, you know what, United fans, they want to make the club great again. And I'm sure they do want the club to be great again. I'm sure they do want to win. But the number one reason is money. We're talking about billionaires here. We're talking about billionaires. It is money.
Yeah.
That is the reason. Like, it's no other reason. There will be other things, but the main reason is money. And
to be
United
£1 billion
fans like
in debt.
us, if we were billionaires, would you start working with the Glazers? You wouldn't. You wouldn't, if you cared about United as much as you claim to.
I think it's a land grab kind of opportunity. They've looked at that redevelopment, and it's a huge area if they can get this new ground, if they can get government funding, which they're trying to look at, and you kind of look at it and there's a bigger picture. You know, people will say that Jim Ratcliffe is a kind of snake and stuff, and he's not daft. That's why I'm saying he's not bought Man United without knowing what's going on behind the scenes. I just think they're all that obsessed at the minute with this 100,000-seater stadium where you look at it and think, you know, what's the point? Yeah, exactly. You know, when you could be what? Oh, that would be great. Yeah, playing in the Championship, you know, against, I don't know, Coventry or something. It's like
Coventry nearly beat us.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing, was we could end up in a situation. I'm going to bring the super chats in just 1 second.
Yeah.
We could end up in a situation where we're so focused on regeneration, you know, connections with the government to get this off the ground, and, you know, connections in Manchester to get the regeneration projects off the ground. You could be in a situation where you're building a 100-seater stadium, you can't fill it because you've priced out the people of Manchester to go, because, you know, we're not in Fulham like Sir Jim compared us to the ticket prices. We're not.
I was going to say,
the cost of living is different.
£66 to go and watch that today.
Well, it's going to go even further up if you do a regeneration project. So you could price out your actual fans, and you could be building a stadium for a 100,000-seater stadium for a team that's in the bottom half of the table, and that's me being generous. It could get even worse.
They've got so much wrong.
Focusing on the wrong thing.
The ticket pricing thing really got me, because to take away concessions for, you know, old age pensioners, even under 16s, you know. My lads love going to United, and I'm like, £66, you know, for each of us. And, you know, like, to the normal person, you kind of look at it and it's not sustainable. And they would rather have empty seats in that ground. You know, there was today, Fulham fans didn't take their allocation. I think they were trying to charge them, was it £52 or something today? Everyone's had enough. But again, you're not getting the product on the pitch. Why would you want to pay £66 to be subjected to that?
As long as there are value in their commercial partners, like they said in that statement. But Mods, Amorim, I want to ask you, how do you think INEOS are going to handle the rest of the season? How do you see it going? If you had to predict now what's going to happen, and where do you see Amorim's future? And I can't believe I'm even saying that, but it's something I've got to ask.
Yeah. So what I would say was, I think with Amorim in general, it was a risk. I think it was a risk in terms of, whenever you're coming from a smaller league, and when I say smaller, not to disrespect the Portuguese league, but it's not one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. So whenever you come from, even if you are winning that league year in, year out, I mean, we saw Ten Hag win, you know, in the Eredivisie with Ajax. So you can never be 100% confident that a manager can come and replicate what they did over there into the Premier League, and it worked. So it was always going to be a risk, and the fact that he plays a completely different system to what it feels like everybody else in the Premier League plays anyway, the whole 4-3-3.
They must have knew this.
They knew it.
And this is the thing that gets me. That's why I'm
Yeah.
saying that they're incompetent, because they've made that decision, and Amorim has always stated, I'm not changing for these players, hasn't they? That's why.
Yeah, 100%. But the point I wanted to make was, I feel like INEOS and Glazers, because the Glazers are just, they're in the back somewhere. I know we think that they've disappeared. They are in the meetings. They're having communications with INEOS about every decision they make. I feel like they've kind of got lucky with the fact that every time we brought in a manager, they've had a nice little honeymoon period, whether it's been half a season, 3 months, a season, and it's looked like it worked out. And they've kind of saved themselves by sacking a manager and bringing in a new one halfway through the season. It happened with Jose, happened with Oli, happened with Ten Hag. Probably, I can't remember what Van Gaal's first season was, but it probably happened with Van Gaal as well. They probably thought, you know what, we've done this before 3 or 4 times. It's worked out. We've somehow won trophies by doing it. If it ends up going left in the future, we'll deal with that then. But right now, we need a change because it's looking really bad. But like I said before, Amorim, it was always going to be a risk. This time, it didn't pay off. It didn't pay off for the way how it paid off with Oli. It didn't pay off the same how it paid off with Ten Hag when he came in. Now we're looking at Amorim and it's like, oh, we don't have a honeymoon period. We don't have that season where it's like, oh, we might just win a trophy for no reason somehow and scrape our way to the final and just grab it out of nowhere. We're not having that season now. So now it's looking at, okay, well, the difficulties that every other manager had. And let's be honest, a lot of us look at previous managers, whether it's Jose, whether it's Oli, whatever, and some of us, we kind of look back and we think, you know what, they were kind of done a bit dirty sometimes. Though, Jose's complained, about, not being able to get certain signings and just how the club was run, and it wasn't really running the best way. And we heard Ten Hag recently come out and speak about the club, and Ollie came out and said the same thing. We look back and we think, oh, like maybe they were actually done a little bit dirty. Even though they weren't the greatest, it didn't seem how it always looked. And now we're looking at Amorim, and it's like, well, he's got to deal with that right now in his first season. He could end up, like you said, finishing 15th, 16th, whatever, with no trophy. And it's like, okay, so where's he going to go from here? He hasn't got that protection of, oh, I won a trophy in my first season. He hasn't got the protection of, like Ollie went like 17 games unbeaten or whatever. He hasn't got that because he's not getting as lucky as the other managers got, in my opinion. I feel like they all overachieved when they first came in, like Ten Hag did in that first season. So I think it's going to be super, super difficult for Amorim to get anything out of this team this season, because we're not going to have some nice little turnaround and then he's going to click his fingers and everyone's just going to understand the system and start playing great football. That's not going to happen. I don't really want to think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. So I think it's going to end as bad as it's going to end. I think it's probably going to be our worst. It is going to be our worst ever season. I don't think we're going to win a trophy. And I also don't think they really have a good enough plan in the summer to actually turn things around, because they've never had to do that and they've never done it successfully.
It's looking really bleak, and it's like, when do you actually get to rock bottom? We'll continue to discuss, but we want to bring your comments in as well. We've got United Star saying no Europe next year, no summer funds for players. Hambakaya says that Amorim hate is unfair. Man United fans sometimes are like children. We will say it takes a long time to fix the club and it'll be painful, but then when we lose, we want to get rid of the manager. We have Wilson Pereira saying Amorim was brought in to lead us into a nuclear war with bows and arrows in his arsenal. Amateurs are like, we are warriors. We were with ammunition to a match. Do you know what? That's a really good chat. A really good chat and a really good comparison.
Well done.
Yeah, it's a good super chat, that, Wilson. Hambakaya says Garnacho wastes chances like they grow on trees. Garnacho must be moved on while the world thinks he's still valuable. Ethan says Amorim doesn't want a back five low block. He has said that himself. Kill Robinson says 7 big contracts ending this summer. Leon starts in the summer. Amorim pre-season. Sell Rashford, Garnacho and Anthony and for big cash in the summer. It is not over yet. And Mazra Wawiwa says finally my love is back. Kev, my handsome king.
Mazra Wawiwa.
Honestly, I mean, you talk about backing Amorim in the summer, and I think everyone can agree that Amorim needs to be backed. I mean, I'm looking at the game today, right? I'm looking at the game today. Fulham bring on, and this was pointed out by Ricky in the forum group chat, shout out to Ricky. I've got more comments where this came from, by the way. You should see his Lindelof comments that I'll bring it in a minute. Fulham brought on Willian and Raul Jimenez off the bench. They both walk into our team. This is Fulham, by the way, and no disrespect to Fulham, they're above us in the league, they're a better team than us, but so many of their players walk into our team. It's getting to the point where even bench players are walking into our team. Their bench is better than our bench. Like, he's got nothing to work with, bows and arrows, like Wilson said on the Super Chat, Kev. I mean, we need to back Amorim, we know this. But if we're out of Europe completely, we're already up against it with FFP. How much really can you back him? Because we couldn't afford 5 million for Tell in January. Never mind, you know, you're looking at plays for the summer. We're already getting moved away from the Osimhen and Gyökeres sort of dreams. You know, United fan base is slowly getting kind of brought back to reality that we haven't got much money this summer. So how do you back a manager that needs such specific players for this system? Not even just specific players, but better players that have physicality, that have technical ability on the ball, have that football intelligence. How do you do that?
Unless I really don't see where the money's going to come from. Again, I feel like every single season we always mention, you know, the words like deadwood and massive clear-outs needed. That does still apply. I think there's a hell of a lot of players that need to be shifted on. How easy that's going to be, I really don't know. Yes, there's money to be made, from Sancho, Rashford, but then it comes down to what players he wants to get rid of. He must know and be under absolutely no illusion at this moment in time the players that he can trust. He can probably count on one hand at this moment in time the ones that he can trust 100% to probably play this system. But the main headache is, like I say, is it's going to be the money issue. You know, if you didn't have the debt there, again, yes, I am alluding back to this, but if the debt's not there, Manchester United is sustainable. It makes its own money every year, so that there would be money and funds available. The way that like Ten Hag was kind of back last season. My worry is I don't understand where it's going to come from. And the financial figures that come out recently, it's a proper eye-opener where you look at it, and a genuine concern that this, you know, I'm not saying the club's going to burn to the ground. I'm sure some people would be, you know, saying that kind of thing. But we are at a point where the cuts that they're making, you know, and you do look back and think to the players, do they know? They must know what's going on behind the scenes. You know, and that's where I find it difficult as a fan sometimes. If you get players that are walking off that pitch that are kind of not showing what it means to wear that shirt, you know, you do hear the argument that is the club too big for them. I do think it does apply. And I think us fans sometimes have been very quick to build up these players, make them into something that they're not. Maybe they're not ready for it yet, whatever it is. But a massive clear out is needed. It really is.
One thing I want to say is, I get what you're saying in it, because I do think that does apply to certain players, the whole like the shirt's big, you know, playing for United. But at the same time, I just think the fact that, first of all, I think the fact that there's been so many players that have come to the club and are big name players and haven't worked, in my opinion, that just kind of shows that this whole the United shirt's too heavy it's not warranted for every single player. We saw Ronaldo end up becoming the problem. Is Ronaldo not big enough for the shirt? Like, is Cristiano Ronaldo not big enough to play for United? We saw Pogba, one of the biggest players in the world, come to United and struggle. We've seen who else?
Alexis Sanchez, Di Maria.
We've seen so many players who were big name players come to the club and struggle. I don't think the badge is too heavy for certain guys. I don't think that applies to everyone. I genuinely feel like it all stems down to the whole foundation of the club not having the right culture and the right environment for certain players to succeed. It's definitely not a coincidence that half of these players that have left us have all gone on to do well. Yes, obviously some of them do go on and fail and whatever. That is what it is. But the fact that we've seen so many players leave and go on to play better in better environments just kind of shows that it's not. We're making excuses now, acting like it's their fault. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that player just wasn't good enough. That player wasn't this. No, they all played at United and they all struggled at United, but they all left and played well in other places. Exactly,
and just leading on to your point when you talk about Ronaldo, I completely agree with everything you said, because Ronaldo came back and said that I've rejoined Manchester United, but it feels like I've just driven back into the same place that I left
20 years ago.
Right?
Time machine.
So how were the facilities not at least touched up in the last 20 years since Ronaldo was there and then came back? And it poses the question as like, if nothing changed from 20 years back, how are we meant to step forward and redevelop if we've got the same equipment and the same medical team and the same people around the club? If nothing's changed, nothing is gonna improve. Because it's like saying if us four were terrible and no one wanted to watch, right? But Goldbridge was like, oh, I'm going to keep them on anyway. But then nothing's going to change. Yeah. You're not going to get any viewers. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, and this is why. Yeah, this is gonna. Actually, no, let me say this, but you see, like when I'll say this, you see, like when you see like ex like pundits or whatever, or like, and they talk about how, you know, the United that let me not say any names in it, but the United of back in the day was a lot different to the United now, and they always try and say that, oh, the players should be doing this and they should be doing that. And I look back and to your point, well, the United that was in 1995 and in 2000 was the best club in the world. They had the best stadium, the best training ground, the best facilities, the best coaches, the best manager. They were surrounded by the other players who were also the best players, and we had the mentality and the standard to be the best in class. The United right now, we do not have the best stadium, we don't have the best training ground. Like you said, the facilities are all over the place. They're not surrounded by the best players. Amorim is whatever you want to think of him, but he's definitely not the best manager in the world. It's a completely different club than what it was 15, 20, 25 years ago. So this whole
everything's different.
Everything's different. I don't understand how you can expect a player to be at his best when he's at a club that doesn't even like inspire him to be his best.
The only thing the same is the name of the club.
Exactly.
It wasn't even here. It was Man United, but you know what I mean. It feels like the culture has completely changed. I mean, we've got this super chat in now, saying from United Star saying, would you take Pogba back right now? That's where United are at. That's where United fans are at. And it gets to a point where you thought about it.
No, Osman's a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm desperate, man.
You thought about it.
Not to bring him back, no.
Honestly, any other club that had been ran well, you wouldn't even think about it. But United fans genuinely now, and nothing against Pogba, because I think I've always said he's super talented. Super talented. You know, he'd come into this team and absolutely do a job, 100% he would. I worry about injuries, I worry about, you know, going back to the past and moving on to the future. But any other team that would have actually, you know, been on the right track since Pogba left wouldn't be pining for him back. But now if you said to United fans, would you take Pogba back? I'm pretty sure most of them would say he absolutely starts over a lot of the players in our team, if not all of them.
He definitely
shows how
he definitely starts over them, because we have an awful team. But I think obviously, like, in real life term, like, signing Pogba is just, it's like we're saying, you know what, we've been so bad the last when did he leave? 3 years ago? 2 years ago?
It'd be a backward step.
He was injured for about a whole season anyway, so he probably left about
in terms of the club and what you just said, and this applies to anything. You talking about United saying the 90s compared to what they are now, and it's no coincidence. Obviously, the Glazers took over in, what was it, like 2005. Yeah. Now, they were very lucky at that time. They had Sir Alex Ferguson in charge, so that bided them a bit of time. Even Sir Alex Ferguson at the time used to tell you, there's no value in the market. You know, when we missed out on certain players, and you were like, you know, even to an extent, you know, some of the things that he said was a little bit of a cover-up. You knew for a fact that he wasn't being backed, and it's happened every single time. But what I would say is, especially in football, in anything, you stand still, you get left behind. Yeah. And everything you've just mentioned then, Spurs have got a better stadium than us, Leicester's training ground is better than ours. City. And what has happened is, Manchester City, you look at Liverpool now, you know, they're having their time. Yes, it does work in cycles, but at the same time, if United had been competitive, if they'd have continued to grow, to buy the best players, just 1 or 2 players every summer, but now we're actually at a point where we're looking, and there's probably an argument that we need 7 or 8 first team players, you know, to come into this squad. When you build something like Sir Alex Ferguson did, he was obviously the master at it, it's very easy then, you know, to add just little bits each summer. You don't have to go and splash, you know, whatever it is. But at that time, back in the 90s, we were just building and building. What's happened is we've stood still, and we've got left where we are now in the league. You know, that is where we are at.
I think it'd be a quicker process to get back to the top. I'm not talking about the academy, because the academy's doing really well. The academy's thriving. It's probably the shining light of this club. But it'd be a quicker process, I think, if you just scrapped the whole first team and started again. 100%. And I know there's players there that we love, like Bruno Fernandes, who is getting a lot of praise right now, and there's other players that other people love. But if you generally just scrap the whole first team and started again, it would be quicker than what we're going to have to do.
And he might have to look at youth. You know, Heaven coming on today looked good. Obviously, Chido, Obi Martin as well. And you start to look at this, and you're thinking, yes, the manager is tied, or he's got his hands tied behind his back, but he might have to do this now. Maybe deep down he knows, you know, what money am I going to get in, transfers, I'm going to have to start using the youth.
Well, we're going to talk about the youth in a second, because we have a few more super chats coming in, and someone's mentioned one. We have Bram Muffin saying, "But hello, Beth, I am as drunk as a skunk." I don't blame you, to be honest with you. I do not blame you. Darren Mulaney says, "It's the players, not the manager. A lot are not good enough. Please give this manager time so he can get his players, and maybe it's time to give youth a go." We'll talk about youth because I don't think we're getting much money in for his players. We don't have any money, and we're not going to be in Europe. Ronnie Dodge says Chido carries on. He takes Hojlund's spot at United and at Denmark. Masraoui says, "Sammy, I still watch you if you were terrible. You are so cute. Be happy and smile. We love you." A bit of a pep talk, Sam. Love that. Thanks. And Hambakaya says, "United don't need a full-scale clear-out." Yeah, INEOS signings have been great. What we need is a clear out of the attacking staff, which includes the midfield. I think great is a big stretch.
Bit of an overstatement.
It's a big stretch. Wilson Pereira says, "We never cared about culture under the Glazers, and now INEOS, we put managers under the bus. Player power, bad infrastructure, young, good players failing for the lack of leadership on the pitch. Kissing the badge seems like a farce now." Kevin Shields says, "The players are infected by the club, which is a cancer. We need to remove the infection to survive. #Glazers out, INEOS out. No retreat, no agenda," says Trafford Council is going up to 7.5%. Keil Robinson says, "We missed Anthony today. He saved us last year." Yeah. He did save us, to be fair.
We missed him.
He's now the face of La Liga. He's moved on to better things than United. Scott Page says, "I think we lack leadership. Bruno tries, but he's no Keno. De Ligt has potential to be, in my opinion, missing Ahmad so much." Well, let's start off with the youth. Keep getting your super chats in, guys. Really do appreciate them, and a couple of you there mentioned the youth and mentioned Chido Obi on that. Well, this is a stat to bring in because I think this is a positive we can talk about. Chido Obi had 3 big chances in 52 minutes today. For comparison, Rasmus Hojlund has had 3 big chances in 22 Premier League matches this season.
3 big in 22. Is that the whole season? Like, how many games have we played? 25?
Probably is.
22.
Basically.
Chido Obi had 3 big chances in 52 minutes today. For comparison, Rasmus Hojlund has had 3 big chances in 22 Premier League matches this season. Does this dispel the myth of no service? And does this kind of expose the fact that we are lacking from our number 9, Kev?
I think he's been... The performance of Chido coming on today, what he did... again, against Everton when he come on, we just said how refreshing was it that he was running the channels, he was able to hold the ball up, and in comparison to Hojlund, I think he just does everything that Hojlund doesn't do. And again, I know some people might say, well, it's not saying much because he's anonymous, Hojlund, in the majority of the games. I think it's December the 12th, the last time Hojlund scored. You know, and at a club like Manchester United, it's such a pivotal focal point of the team. If you're talking about pressing, the way you want to play, the press starts from the front. And I think that, you know, this kid has come on today and highly exposed the main sort of weaknesses of Hojlund. A lot of us were saying at the weekend, wasn't it? It becomes a debate then. Do you start him? Oh, he's too young. You don't want to throw him under the bus. You don't want to burn him out and that. But we're that desperate for something up front. He's come on today. Yes, he's not the finished article. You know, he's a bit rough around the edges. He had a great opportunity where he stays on his feet, but he managed to shoot a cross goal, nearly put it out for a throw-in. But Hojlund didn't, you know, he didn't create anything for himself. I'm not having that. You know, let's debug that myth that Hojlund gets no service. Because as a striker, sometimes you have to make your own service as well. And what Chido did when he come on, he was dropping into space, he was looking to get involved, spinning, turning, giving, going, making the right runs. Just basic things as a striker. And I think he really showed up Hojlund today. Because I think you do look at it as a comparison and go, wow. You know, and... you can't say that Hojlund's not been playing. I said to you earlier, he's starting every single game. He doesn't have competition for his place. I think you do need that.
I think he has.
He needs a right kick up his arse, and I think that is the one today. If I know Hojlund's only 22, but if I'm looking at that, I'm thinking this kid's just come on and actually, you know, he's looked more impactful in that team than I have for the past 20 odd games.
You saw it right from. I was going to say, you saw it right from the get-go when he came on. He was going straight at. He gave Bassi more of a problem than Rasmus did the entire game.
Bassi bullied Rasmus.
Yeah.
And you'd think Rasmus was more, you know, physical for that.
Yeah.
Was surprising.
And then Chidi came on, and it was like, oh wow, like you're actually, he's struggling, and even Chidi knocked the ball off Bassi a couple times. Where was Rasmus wasn't doing that.
Yeah, and look, this is the thing I've been saying for time. This excuse is such a bad excuse. We've been saying it for so long. And look, the best strikers, look, the reason why Chido got those shots, because a big chance is only when you actually take the shot. Hojlund doesn't get to the shot. He doesn't make it to the part where he can shoot. The chance where you said, like, when he almost like fell over and Calvin Bassi was like kind of like on his shoulder. The reason why he's been able to get that shot off is because he's mustered him off. He's protected the ball and he's spun off him and he's got the shot. Yeah, the shot wasn't that great. It stayed in play, to be fair. But to get to the shot, he has to do he has to have the right movement. Like you said, he has to be physical. He's got to be smart by the way he's playing. So then Calvin Bassi can't just clear the ball or just drag him down.
It's intelligence, though, isn't it? Because he spins him, and you can see what he's doing. Yeah, and that's why I'm saying before. It's a basic thing for a striker. I mean, Chido's come on today and you see a 17-year-old kid doing that. And that's where the concern is now, because you look at Hojlund, when's the last time he did something like that, where he spun a defender?
He's shown him up in terms of his movement, because Chido wasn't too much involved in the overall play of the game, but he got his opportunities, he waited for his moment, he made it hard for the defenders. I think he was more of a handful for their centre-backs than what Hojlund was at. And he's not the full package. Of course he's got stuff to work on, but forced Leno into a good save. Give Bassi a problem when Hojlund couldn't. And this is what I don't get. Hojlund's over 6 foot, and he's got, he's a physical player, physical physique, but he gets bounced by every defender. Cheeto looks stronger than him, and he's 17. So,
and he's quick, Hojlund, as well. I think he can run like the 100 metres in like 11 seconds or something. So, but then it's channeling that, you know, that kind of speed. And this is probably where it comes down to kind of football IQ and, you know, and awareness of being able to do it. You know, we bought a player in Hojlund. Yes, we didn't... Whether we were in for Harry Kane at the time or not is another argument. But we went with the younger player to develop. You know, I'd love to know behind the scenes, you know, what the coaching staff actually think of him. You know, have they looked and thought, wow, you've spent 72 million on, you know, this kid? Because they might even look in comparison at this moment and go, Cheeto, you know, he didn't play in the under-18s, did he? They kept him back for this game, knowing. And again, I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but from Amorim's kind of perspective now, he must be looking and going, actually, you know, this lad, if we play him, it changes the dynamics of this team totally if I play him instead of Hojlund.
Yeah, I mean, Nico Ali says, Cheeto was much better than Hojlund today. We struggled with William balls into our box in the extra time. Does Cheeto start next game, Sam? Because I think in the time he had on, he did dispel a lot of the no service excuses that have been going around. Yeah,
I think for me, I would start him next game. The only thing I worry about is that he was brought on in an attempt to win the game and ended up playing 52 minutes. Therefore, will Amorim want to give him from the start, or will he want to wait until minute 50 to give him another 45 minutes? That is the only thing. I can like, imagine it right now that we're all sat here for the next game and we're like, oh, why isn't he starting? And Amorim goes, oh, he played 52 minutes last game. And I get that because he's a kid and we need to protect. And that could be the only reason. But for me, I'll play him. Like, did more.
I don't think
did
he
more
will,
than
Rasmus. I don't think he will, but I think at most, like honestly, when I say it's 10 men, it's 10 men. Like it's 10, literally 10 men. At most, I put Xerxes up top and then play 2 10s behind him, and then bring on up Cheeto.
I thought Xerxes was really good today.
That's what I mean. So at most, I'd put like I said, I put Xerxes up top. Even though Xerxes has been playing very well in the 10, and I don't really want to change that. I'll be honest, but genuinely, just so we can have another player on the pitch, so we have 11 versus 11. I put Xerxes up top and then put, I don't know, like Ericsson and Garnacho or somebody else as one of the 10s, because like it's becoming to the point where, like I said, it's limiting the amount that we can actually like go forward in terms of, you know, we're trying to play a certain style, a certain system where, you know, we're trying to go out wide to our wing backs, or we're trying to break it down the lines, or, you know, Xerxes trying to catch the ball or come in deep and get the ball and then, you know, facilitate our other players. And he's looking up and he's like, I honestly feel like Xerxes looks up and he thinks, I don't even want to go to Hojlund. Like, he's probably thinking, let me keep it for a few more seconds and see if Bruno gets available or somebody else gets available, because every single time I play it to Hojlund, he does nothing with it. And players 100% think that. There's no way they don't think that on the pitch. Well,
if we think it as well, it's the same with Onana. You can see all the players don't have really much faith in Onana, the same as the fans don't. It's like,
the fans when he was taking so long to kick the ball today.
When Hojlund has the ball and he doesn't lose it, I'm more shocked than when he does lose it. And that's like when he actually manages to play a pass, I'm like, oh my gosh, like he's played a pass. Like that shouldn't be the case. I mean, we need to move on a little bit, but Aiden Heaven as well came on, and I think a lot of people didn't really know what to expect from him. Ricky's messaged me saying he really likes the look of him, so that's a thumbs up from Mr. Ricky, the Godfather. But did we all like the look of Aiden Heaven early days, but debut today?
Did nothing wrong.
It's a big game to be thrown into as well, you know, to come into that game. Yes, I did look at the bench before it and I was slightly worried, thinking if we do need to dig into that bench, you know, obviously Garnacho was the one you'd look at as changing, and I thought he did well today. But in terms of the younger lads, I thought for him to come in, I think it's a nice system for him to play, because he's playing alongside 2 other very experienced centre-backs. But everything he did, there was one instance, I think, in front of the East Stand where he sort of shielded the ball out, and I liked it. It looked technically, it looks good. He looks athletic. I kind of looked and thought, it's, you know, it's especially when centre-back's going to be quite competitive, innit? I know that there's free spaces there. You've got like Lenny Oro, who's trying to find his feet and getting at the team, De Ligt, Maguire. But moving forward, I'd have no issue. If I heard he was starting the next game, I'm not building him up too much, but he just gave me the vibes of somebody who looked very comfortable. He didn't look out of place, didn't look shaky or anything. So, Yeah, I was very happy with him.
The goal that Manchester United did score, Maud, came from Bruno Fernandes. Dalot finally actually got a cross into the box that didn't hit the first man. Honestly. But
him and Doggy were night and day, by the way.
Yeah, night and day.
Different players completely. Like, it's crazy.
But it feels like it's just always Bruno Fernandes.
It is.
Always Bruno. United too reliant on him, and honestly, like, you know, I know there's mixed reviews on him, but I don't know where we'd be without him.
This is what I hate when people say, like, Bruno's our best player, but we're 15th, so how good does that make Bruno? Okay, but if we didn't have Bruno, we'd probably be 20th. Like, it can get worse. Like, people think that, and we've said this, and I make this point all the time, we say this about our best player all the time. We said it about Ronaldo, we're bad, but Ronaldo's our best player, then how good are we? Or we said it about, I don't know, Pogba. I know everyone's talking about Pogba in the chat, but we said it about Pogba, we said it about Rashford, we said it about all these other players. When we're playing bad and we look at our best player, we always look at our main guy and we say, we're in this bad position, our best guy must not be good enough, so let's get rid of him. And we're doing the exact same thing with Bruno. All of our other best players have left and we are in the worst place we've ever been. If Bruno wants to leave, what do you think is going to happen? It's the exact same cycle. And the thing with Bruno is, I feel like he's even doing more than he's even supposed to be. I feel like he does more on the pitch than we even...
He was in centre-back a few positions.
I'm seeing him like there was a video, the clip.
He does not stop.
He does not. There was a clip that I saw on Twitter or TikTok or something. It was like the 90th minute. I think it was against Everton or who was that last game? I can't remember. Ipswich, yeah. And it was like the 90th minute, and Bruno's like made a tackle or he blocked a shot late in the game, and he's ran all the way down the pitch. And he put a cross in, and the cross has kind of like gone to no one, but he's sprinted all the way back, and he was literally like, when I say dying, he was like on his knees, like he was completely finished. But I just thought, like, he's not even supposed to have to do. There's supposed to be other players that are supposed to do that job, or to at least help him do that job. But Bruno is doing every single thing in his power to help his team win, and I feel like people, they don't give him credit. And they only want to give him credit when he saves us, but he doesn't have to always save us for us to appreciate how good of a player he is, because he does this like nearly every game, let's be honest. Yes, he makes a lot of mistakes sometimes and he's not the best player all the time, but the reality is, look, without Bruno Fernandes, we would be so bad, and it's so evident.
No, nobody else in that team is capable. I said the same thing in this FA Cup run against Arsenal. His finish on the edge of the box when it gets pulled across, was it Garnacho passed to him and he bends the ball in the corner. At that time, I said on here, nobody else in that team is capable of doing that. I went, he's the one person you wanted that ball to come across to. And the same thing applies today. When Dalot, puts that cross in, you're thinking he is the one person you want on the end of it. Great left foot finish. Really, really good finish. Do
you know what it is? People gonna go in on me in the comments again for glazing Bruno or whatever, but I don't care. Like, I'm just always gonna say my opinion. Like, call me a Bruno glazer. I do not care at this moment in time. But he is one of the only players that hasn't been brought down by the football club. And do you know what it makes me think? It makes me think, oh my gosh, what a player he could be if he wasn't at United. Like, could you imagine? Like, he could be like Ballon d'Or winner if he weren't at United. Like, he might have been, I'm not saying he is, but he might have been dragged down by the club like everybody else, but he's still good.
Ricky's watching this somewhere in a bar on his phone going, bloody Ballon d'Or, what's Beth on about here?
I'm a bit tongue-in-cheek with that one, but I'm saying, like, he might have been dragged down by the club, but he's still good. What could he have been if he was somewhere that was actually decent? Because every player gets dragged down by this club. Look at, I'm not even just Onana, right? Where is his distribution? We brought him in for distribution. He was pinging passes in a Champions League final against Prime City, and now he can't hit. He can't hit a barn door.
He's never put in a performance like that for us.
Anthony comes in like nothing. Now he's doing really well. I know it's Real Betis, but they've just beat Real Madrid. Like, every player that comes to us just flops or falls off a cliff.
It happens eventually, yeah.
Eventually they do. Yeah. It's like, how long is it going to take to get to Ugarte? How long is it going to take to get to Mazraoui, Dele, whatever? But it's like Bruno is the only player that's kind of survived the being dragged down, is what I'm trying to say.
And people still say, like, all the time, like, we don't, like, Bruno's a problem, Bruno's the reason why we're losing games, Bruno's this, Bruno's that. I just think, like, okay, so if Bruno didn't play today, what do you think would have happened? Like, do you think everyone would have just clicked and then everything would have been great? Like, what? Like, are you living in a fairy tale? Like, that's not how football works. You can't just, first of all, you can't just get rid of one player and expect the whole team to just play better. That's not how football works anyway.
Standards alone.
Never happened.
Yeah, mentality-wise, a lot of these players don't get it, but the one thing you can't sort of take away from Bruno Fernandes is that he doesn't shy away from being the captain, and he actually looks like he gives a shit when he's on the pitch. You know, he's one that will come off the pitch today that will be hurting. And again, there'll be a counter argument. Somebody, you know, I know Roy Keane didn't have great things to say about him, but I don't disagree with Roy Keane on many things, but I thought it was a bit harsh for somebody who actually, like I say, standards-wise, it's not great at United, but at least he gives a shit.
Yeah,
I think Roy Keane was chatting. No,
God, no.
Go on, Mark.
I just think he was chatting so much. I hate when, this is what I was saying before about ex-players. Like, you sat on a high horse when, let's be honest, you guys came into the club back when the club was at its very best. Let's be honest, the ex-players that play for United have never been in this situation. You've never played for a club that's at its worst. Yeah. You've never played for a club that has like I said, a terrible stadium. I'm not saying terrible, but it's not the greatest stadium, not the greatest training ground in terms of like being up to standard with everybody else. You know, with a coach that's, let's be honest, a bunch of coaches that are trying to. They played under Sir Alex Ferguson. How can you compare what you went through to the players at United right now? And they sit there and they act like, oh, if I was there, I would have done this. Why do you think every single player that's played for United over the past 12 years haven't done it? Is it a coincidence?
That's true.
Cristiano Ronaldo played for the club and it didn't work for him. You know what I mean? So who do you think that, I don't get, I just hate these acts. I'm not saying I hate them, but I just think they just sit on a high horse and act like they know exactly what to do. You played in the best club in the world. You obviously knew what to do because you were surrounded by the best players, and even if you didn't play well, Roy Keane didn't play in the Champions League final and he won. You know what I mean? Like, he's moving like he was the be-all and end-all for the club. Not to say he was a bad player or anything like that, but I just think that, like, it's not the same situation that it was 20, 30 years ago that it is right now.
All I'm saying is you are the product, and this is, you know, you can hear this on near enough every self-help podcast that you can find. You are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You know, United are a product of what they have. And it's everybody kind of feeds into each other. You put not even like one of our best players, but you put our player into Liverpool, into City, they're automatically going to rise because they are surrounded by better players with a better mentality, the better attitude, because they've been surrounded by better players. You are what you eat. You know, you are what you're around, and we have fed into this toxicity and this failing culture for a long time, and that's what we've got. If you pinpointed every player off and put them into completely new, different clubs, successful clubs around Europe, you know, some of them would do well, some of them wouldn't, some of them would do average, but together, it's just this whole club's a mess, which is why I've said it needs to be completely changed from top to bottom.
And let's not forget about what a month ago Amorim labelled this team, you know, the worst Manchester United team in history. I know he doubled down a bit after it, but I think a lot of fans can allude to that fact. So it works both ways, doesn't it? If we're going to say that, yes, for Amorim, he's been dealt a tough kind of hand or whatever, then the same applies. What you are saying is that Bruno Fernandes is actually playing in the worst Manchester United team ever. Yeah. You know, it's all hearsay. You could say, well, obviously it can't happen, but if you had a time machine and he played, you know, as the number 10 in the 99 team, would he have been as effective?
Yeah, I know.
He would be better with better players around him.
I think it's...
But saying that, actually, in the midfield role today, I don't like him in that. I prefer him to be in the 10. I think he's much more effective.
Interesting stuff, Kev.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got some... Get it in there.
Interesting.
Got some super chats. Football Manager says, not surprised with the results, to be honest. Man United need a major squad overhaul. But by the way, I'm just getting started a YouTube channel and wondered if you would give me a shout out. It's called Football Manager Inside. Well, there's your shout out. Everyone go and follow Football Manager Insider. Unless you start getting more popular than us, then don't. Jamie McLaren says, Obi isn't ready. Far from it. It's all we have, though. Darren Mulaney says, would any of you have Danny Welbeck back at United in a heartbeat?
Let's go today. You see his goal today?
This is what I mean. Yeah. Danny Welbeck, how long ago did you get rid of him? Like 8-9 years ago, and he still walked into our team. Like, we've got...
Mad.
Nico Ali says Cheeto was much better than Hojlund today. We struggled with Williams' balls into the box. We've done that one. United Star says, how long till Collier is back? We need his energy. Not sure yet. They're very secretive on the injuries. Scott Page says, I think we lack leadership. Bruno tries, but he's no Keno. Dullit has potential. I've done that one. Thank you for everyone getting your chats in. We do appreciate all of the comments coming in. Just to finally round off the show, I know you said you preferred Bruno in the 10, Kev, kind of swung
a bit of a curveball there.
What's everyone's thoughts on Joshua Zirkzee? Because I saw so many mixed reviews on him on social media today. But I mean, personally for me, I think he's very hit and miss. But I think he's got promise, and he gave absolutely everything there. I think you're starting to see more out of him. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I thought he played a very good game today. Yes, he missed a penalty, and yes, the game ultimately was decided based upon those penalties. But I like him in that number 10 position. He drives with the ball, and I noticed it a few times. Like, you see, like, people say like Xerxes isn't putting in 100% effort, but like when if he's like walking, for example, to get to a position, he suddenly turns it on and goes. And it's like, if you're going to give us those moments and that encouragement that you can do it, then just please continue.
He gives everything. He put a shift in his legs were gone today. It's just the type of player he's not the most pacey. So if he knows he's not going to get somewhere, like sometimes it maybe looks that way, but he's just not got the most pace. But I do think there's promise there. I mean, Kev, Xerxes and Bruno is the best 10s moving forward then, would you say?
I would say so. I think Xerxes is so unpredictable, isn't he? I mean, one minute he's capable of like a moment of magic, you know, where he does a flip flap or he nutmegs someone and you go, whoa, you know, and then equally in that same kind of motion, he'll just play an awful pass where you go, you've just done the hard work, and he's something to work with, and he's definitely something different in that area of the pitch. We've said it loads of times. He links up the wide players. He brings people into play, drops in. But I totally agree today. I thought after about sort of half an hour today, he looked a bit leggy. Is that the word?
I've got 2 questions to end the show on, everyone. Thank you for everyone getting involved. You can comment your answers down below. It's gone rapid because we had a little bit of a rant on the ownership when we started the show, but I think it was very well needed. My 2 questions to round off the show is man of the match, Kev.
Delete, 100%.
Mods?
Give it Xerxes, yeah.
Okay. Sam?
Delete.
I am also going with Delete. I thought Delete had a monster performance. What are you guys saying in the chat? Let me know.
I know on the TV that we watched, I think they give it Bruno, but I thought it was a bit lazy.
They just give
it's more or less, he scored the goal, and I thought, you can't just give man of the match because he scored a goal.
I feel like 100 of them now.
My second question is, will Manchester United... I'm not even going to say you win the Europa League. Will Manchester United get past Sociedad, Kev?
No, I don't think so. I really hope they do, obviously. But I'm going to do the first time ever on the United stand. I'm going to use my head instead of my heart.
That's 2 legs, though.
Yeah, 2 legs. Yeah.
Will they get past?
I just can't see it. No consistency.
Kev has officially been broken. It's got to it. We've been the United stand for years together, and I've never heard you predict a loss. Yeah. And we've broke you. Mods.
It might just be because it's on the back of this. Get me on that match day, and I'll be shameless and going, I
understand they broke me a few weeks ago, Kev, don't worry.
I'm just low at this minute.
Yeah, I'm the same, I'll be honest. You know what? First leg's away, innit? Next week's away. That's going to be so difficult.
We could be out.
We will not get past
Old Trafford.
First leg on Thursday, and we're absolutely knackered from this. We've got no one.
We will not get past Sociedad away. No way.
Famous words, man. No way.
It'd be typical of United to do it, but...
Last, so you said no. Okay, everyone in the chat saying no. Nice way to end it. Hit a like on the video for the therapy forum. It's going to be a long end to the season. We're in it together. Thank you, everyone, for all your super chats. We appreciate it. Kev is officially broken. This is what this club's done to him. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday evening, leaving later than expected. I'm getting nothing in return. United. Have a good Sunday, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.